after seeing those two videos of those brothers getting killed, 4 people in 4 days, in 4 different places that are all human. That, for me, that was the turning point for me.
You could write a whole novel about the shenanigans that Game and Snoop Dogg have gotten themselves into over the years. The Game has been no stranger to beef and fights, constantly getting into hardcore fisting action with the likes of 40 Glock and even sucker punching an off-duty cop at a basketball game.
Truly epic. Just one problem. The guy that he punched was a cop!
In fact, the Compton rapper seems to have absolutely no fear of the cops. You can see this during a tense confrontation between the Game, T.I. and a bunch of people and the LAPD outside a nightclub in 2014.
Go ahead and hit him. Go ahead and hit that good look. Go ahead and hit him now. Trigger happy too.
I can only assume that the police were there to investigate criminal damage against whoever decided to paint that Range Rover puke orange. Ugh. Snoop Dogg is also no angel when it comes to altercations with the law. He famously beat a murder case in 1993 after being defended by famous lawyer and small glove enthusiast Johnny Cochran. Snoop has been arrested and had confrontations with cops all over the world, including these delightful scenes where he gets nicked by Britain's finest bobbies at Heathrow Airport. It's no surprise then, considering the extensive harassment that Snoop has received from the police over the years, that he's also been known for having a deep hatred of the police. I mean, what do you expect from the guy that wrote the song Deep Cover? The chorus is 187 on an undercover cop. You've also got to consider the fact that Snoop was actually discovered by Dr. Dre early in his career. This is only a few years after peak NWA, and songs like F the Police made it cool for people to hate the cops and continuing to increase tension between the police and rap artists. And the Game is also no exception when it comes to releasing songs calling for violence against the police. The song 911 is a Joke is a pretty overt call for violence against the police. And the Game famously blubbed it during an interview where he's talking about the hip-hop community not getting behind his calls for violence against the police. He released the song 911 is a Joke, aka Cop Killer. This was not long after the savage shooting of Sean Bell, who in 2006, along with 2 other people in a car, was shot at 50 times by NYPD. This left 23-year-old Sean dead the day before his wedding.
Game responded with the song 911's a Joke, Cop Killer.
People don't understand, man. And that's why I don't want to be a part of hip-hop no more. Because it just ain't right, man. And hip-hop, it just didn't used to be like this.
The Sean Bell case was just one of many high-profile cases where a young black man had been killed by heavy-handed police officers and justice hadn't been served. And these cases really struck a nerve in the hip-hop community. Jay-Z famously referenced Sean Bell in his remix to Lil Wayne's A Milli, and it's also reported that he'd actually set up a trust fund for Sean Bell's children. And you might also know that Swizz Beatz and Cassidy put together a dream team of rappers to create a song in the aftermath of the Sean Bell case. But sadly, as we know all too well, this was not an isolated incident. LA has a particularly rough history of racial tension between the black community and the police. I mean, who could forget the 1991 brutal beating of Rodney King by the LAPD and the subsequent riots that took place in Los Angeles after those officers were acquitted. Arguably, the sentiment behind Cop Killer and Deep Cover only served to call for more violence against police and essentially driving even bigger of a wedge between the community and the police in Los Angeles. So I found it incredibly inspiring to see that a chain of very unfortunate and tragic events in 2016 led to a really mature response by the Game and Snoop. This led to a really inspiring moment at the LAPD headquarters where the Game and Snoop decided to turn around their sentiment and come along offering a message of unity and peace in an attempt to establish an open dialogue between the community in Los Angeles and the police department.
Our whole mission today was to move in peace and to show that LA can be unified, and not to bash the police, but to come up here and get some dialogue and some communication.
There were 3 violent events back-to-back in July 2016 that sparked off this event. On July the 5th in Louisiana, police tried to arrest Anton Sterling, and after tasing him and trying to pin him to the ground, he was shot 6 times and died at the scene.
I'm saying what I did, so move on, shoot your put your hands on the car.
Then on July the 6th in Minnesota, Philando Castile was pulled over by the police, and whilst reaching for his license, he was shot 7 times. He died at the scene, and there was a shocking video that his girlfriend had live streamed of the event taking place that circulated on the internet. And then in a third shocking day of violence, Mika Xavier Johnson decided to open fire with a sniper rifle during a Black Lives Matter protest in Dallas. This left 5 police officers dead and led to an intense standoff between the shooter and the police. This ended up being the first instance in history where a bomb disposal robot cobalt was actually sent as an explosive device in order to kill a suspect.
5 officers have been killed, 7 officers injured, and 1 shooter identified as Micah Xavier Johnson, 25 years old.
Apparently that last shooting really shocked Game to the core, and he decided he had to do something about it. So he came up with Operation Hunt, which stands for Hate Us, Not Today, with the purpose of creating a peaceful protest and promoting a dialogue between the urban community of all races in Los Angeles and the police department. Snoop Dogg recounted how the game came up with this idea during a Breakfast Club interview.
We was just mad at all of the violence that was happening to these innocent people by the police. So, you know, I was ready to do whatever. So I was basically following his lead. So then he went and made a call to Farrakhan for 3 hours and did all the things he had to do to prepare himself. Then he hit me back at about 3 in the morning, was like, meet me here at 5 in the morning. He didn't say nothing else.
So the game had the idea to rally people together in a peaceful protest the day after the Dallas shootings. But interestingly, it didn't sound like he had a concrete plan until everybody was there that morning.
You know what, I didn't even know what I was gonna do when I came here, but now that I'm looking at the spirit of everything, this is what I wanna do, and I want y'all to follow me on this. I want us to walk down to the precinct and reintroduce ourselves to the police department and let them reintroduce themselves to us so we can get some sort of dialogue going.
So that's exactly what went down, and the game, along with Louis Farrakhan of the Nation of Islam and Snoop Dogg dressed as a non-player character from San Andreas, marched down the street along with 50 people right to the LAPD precinct. But they couldn't have imagined what was waiting for them when they arrived.
Come to find out, the new recruits are graduating right now, about to go hit the streets in a matter of 24 hours, and we standing outside. And the chief of police is there, and the mayor is there.
So it turns out that that was graduation day for the new cadets of the LAPD. And before you knew it, the podiums were out, the press were recording, and the game and Snoop were addressing the audience alongside the mayor of Los Angeles, Eric Garcetti, and the chief of police.
So if you love your lives and you love your families as much as I love mine, try to think about mine as much as I think about yours. And let's try to save each other's lives before the world ends right before our eyes.
This address then led to a behind closed doors meeting between Game, Snoop, Minister Farrakhan, the mayor, and the chief of police that Snoop said really opened the door to better dialogue and understanding between the community and the police. I only recently heard this went down, and I thought it was such an inspiring and incredible story that it really deserved to be documented and championed. The game decided to even take things a few steps further, and alongside Louis Farrakhan, a few weeks later announced that he was promoting a peace treaty between the Crips, Bloods, and other LA gangs to try and stop the violence and encourage cooperation within the community. I found this whole thing really inspiring, and honestly, you never know how much of a difference this might have made on that day. Maybe one of those graduating cops that day could have been a bit of a hothead and gone on to commit one of these violent acts that we've seen so many times in the past. And it's highly possible that the game and Snoop's speech that day could have calmed the nerves of that hot-headed cadet. Maybe it would have led to them having a much better understanding and empathy when it comes to dealing with a tough situation in the future. It's very easy to point out a tragedy that's happened and say how bad it is, but it's very hard to notice how things like this actually could have made a difference to prevent many, many terrible things from happening. So I think the game and Snoop deserve a massive pat on the back for doing this. So that's basically the story. I just think that it's really important that people like Game and Snoop that make the effort to try and bring their communities together deserve to be championed and deserve to be shouted out. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you found that story as inspirational as I did. If you did, please make sure that you like and subscribe below. Hit the notification bell so you can see every time I upload. Definitely go and check out the merch store. I've got a lot of new things that have dropped there recently, so go and see what's there and keep supporting the channel. I'd really appreciate it. And also, if you want to get access to a couple of videos that are no longer available on my YouTube channel, definitely go and check out my Patreon account. We've got an exclusive section there where you'll be able to get access to all of the videos that have been taken off the channel. There's videos about Jay-Z, Kanye, Eminem, Gucci Mane that I'm sure you'll find really interesting. So I hope you like that. Definitely go and check that out. And until next time, peace out.